You know what? I absolutely love science fiction, and I want you to love it too. I'm Michael Levers, and this is Fit to be Read. I'm going to start with acknowledging that there are a number of ways to approach a list like this. My goal is to present these novels to you and hope that at least one of these captivates you or blows your mind enough to make you want to continue reading science fiction literature. If you read all of the novels on this list, you will have sampled many of the greats of the genre. There are a lot of classics on this list today. At the end of the list, I am going to present at least 2 modern novels so that you get a taste of a little bit of each. I'll do another one of these lists later where I do mostly modern and then maybe just have a small sample of classic. Let's not waste any time. Let's go and find your next great read. I've got to start this list with Foundation by Isaac Asimov and his Foundation series. Foundation for many is the greatest science fiction book and series ever written, and even among the best reads in any genre. Talk to a bunch of science fiction fans and many will tell you that this is the book that got them hooked. Asimov published this in 1951. The Galactic Empire's days are numbered, and Harry Seldon, foreseeing this, developed a new science called psychohistory. Seldon, in the hopes of shortening the length of time that the universe will experience a decline in the Dark Ages, applies his predictive science and develops a foundation on a distant planet to host the brightest scientific minds as stewards of his plan. The world building is astonishing, and the fact that Asimov develops his own field of science is mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing enough to make you fall in love with the possibilities that science fiction has to offer. Ender's Game, published in 1985, this has that rare double punch power to greatly entertain and at the same time tug at your heartstrings. Most entertaining are the world's last hope genius prodigy children vying for leadership assignments as they navigate the demands of battle school. The most promising genius is Ender Wiggin, a young boy basically planned from birth to be a potential leader in the Earth's war against the bug-like alien creatures, the Buggers. Ender, given his expected destiny and the torment that he faces from other children and calculating adults, is a sympathetic character. It's almost impossible to not feel the weight of the world, of the universe that rests on his shoulders. While I think this book will evoke a love of science fiction in any reader, I believe it also has the potential to nurture a sense of empathy in younger readers. Dune by Frank Herbert is one of the most famous, enduring, and copied stories that the genre has to offer, and for good reason. This 1965 novel explores the coming of age of Paul Atreides. His father, the Duke, is assigned stewardship of the planet Arrakis, also known as Dune. Unique about the desert planet Arrakis is it is the home of the valuable commodity, the spice, melange, and it's home to the desert-dwelling population known as the Fremen, and host to gigantic sandworms. This epic saga has many potential elements that may captivate you, from the economics and political intrigue surrounding the spice trade, rebellious fervor of the Fremen, the mystical and powerful religious and political force and sect of women, the Bene Gesserit, and the possibility that Paul, as foretold by legend, may be the one, or the Lisan al-Gaib, or Muad'Dib. The Stars, My Destination, also known as Tiger Tiger. The setup is nearly contrarian in this Alfred Bester masterpiece. How do you love a book that has one of the most despicable and irredeemable main characters in all of science fiction? Read this 1956 classic and you'll find out. Gully Foyle is fighting for his life in a mostly destroyed spacecraft when a passing ship, a potential rescuer, passes him by and leaves him for dead. The remainder of the story follows Gully, a despicable and unlikable anti-hero, fueled by vengeance as he seeks to track those responsible for deserting him. Also interesting in this world is that individuals are able to jaunt or teleport simply by willing it. I'm not sure this next book makes you fall in love with science fiction, but I introduce it to you because I expect that reading it will make you fall in love with the writing and the ideas of Octavia Butler, one of the greatest writers in the history of science fiction. Kindred by Octavia E. Butler, published in 1979, follows a 26-year-old black woman from 1970s California who continues experiencing random episodes of arriving on a southern slave plantation in the early 1800s. The adventure begins with her saving Rufus, the young white son of a ruthless slave owner. This is so much more than a science fiction novel or historical fiction, and it's a great place to start to explore the amazing Octavia E. Butler catalog. While many of the titles on this list have moments of veering into the philosophical, Solaris by Stanislaw Lem will manipulate your mind and have you questioning what is real and what is not. This 1961 character-driven philosophic dive into the human character will not be a win for everyone, but it suits this list as I see its potential to be an all-time favorite for the right reader. On the planet Solaris, there is an entity, perhaps a vast living ocean. The humans either cannot communicate with this extraterrestrial brain or entity, or the entity just doesn't desire to establish relations and understanding with the humans. Each character will be forced to face their own humanity or nightmares. The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin, published in 1969. There are so many hints of different types of sci-fi in this novel, making it a great representation of what the genre has to offer. More than anything though, it is the relationship between two characters, two different beings who maybe don't fully understand each other, but realize that they must rely on one another. The story is set on the ice planet Gethin. Protagonist Genly I is an envoy for a confederacy of inhabited planets on a scouting or recruiting mission of sorts. Initially, he navigates the political terrain and eventually must navigate the treacherous geographic terrain. This is also a great book to shove in somebody's face when they tell you that science fiction is too whimsical or not literary enough. Ursula Le Guin delivers solid prose, and her works stand up to the greats in any genre. The Left Hand of Darkness, The Dispossessed, or The Lathe of Heaven would all be great entry points for this author and for this genre. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams, published in 1979. I really enjoyed this book, even if it wouldn't make my personal top 10. I know too many people that love science fiction because of this book to not include it on this list. The book is witty, it's unique, it delivers so much great sci-fi. Arthur Dent, by any account, is an unimpressive anyman who is whisked away on an incredible interstellar adventure. This happens right before the Earth is to be destroyed. No big deal, it's just an eminent domain sort of thing. The planet happens to be in the way of an intergalactic highway that's being developed. Dent meets interesting characters along the way, including a paranoid, jittery robot and some wild ideas of aliens as he journeys to discover the meaning of life. This will either be too absurd for you, or you will fall in love with it. I think it's worth the investment to find out. It's not a very long book. I think the books that are most likely to hook you on sci-fi are either going to be the stories with planets, space, and aliens, or those with robots and AI. Isaac Asimov's 1950 novel, I, Robot, is on here to represent robots and AI. This is a fix-up novel of short stories, and it sets up Asimov's famous Robot series. In I, Robot, Asimov introduces the 3 laws of robotics and the positronic brain. The stories explore the evolution of artificial intelligence, and it uses AI as a lens through which to examine humanity. Much of the focus of the story are the conflicts between the first law of robotics that mandate that robots not injure humans or through inaction allow harm to come to humans, and the second and third laws that direct robots to follow orders and to also maintain their own self-preservation. Contact by Carl Sagan, published in 1985. This is one of the great First Contact books ever written. First Contact stories, along with space operas and Galactic Empire stories, are the ones that are most likely to inspire the greatest sense of awe in my reading experience, and maybe this classic novel will do the same for you. In the novel, a scientist, Ellie Arroway, is leading a project searching for extraterrestrial intelligence. Upon discovering a communication from a more technologically advanced alien intelligence, Ellie navigates along with others through obstacles, political and religious, that will hopefully lead to her and a small team building and using a machine that will enable a first real contact with the alien race, beings, intelligence, or whatever. That's my list of 10, but I do have a few more just to give you a couple more options. This is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, published in 1818. I thought of putting this on the top 10, but I listed here instead only because I don't see it as one that will blow you away or get you hooked on the genre, and that was the real reason that I was going to put this list together. This is a foundational work and obviously a classic in the genre. Victor Frankenstein, a scientist, reanimates human parts to bring to life a hideous being. The rejected and unloved monster in search of acceptance or community continues to face rejection, leading him to gain revenge on Frankenstein, attacking him by hurting those that he loves. I did promise you a couple of modern options, and I'll do another list like this where I include mostly modern choices and maybe just a couple of classic choices, but I did promise you something modern, so let's go with House of Suns by Alistair Reynolds, published in 2008. This book has the potential to make Alistair Reynolds and science fiction a regular part of your reading future. In House of Suns, a girl, Abigail Gentian has a very unusual upbringing. She lives in this sprawling house or compound, and her mom is nuts or eccentric, and she's almost never physically there. She's always absent from Abigail's life. Abigail, as she matures, clones herself into thousands of Shatterlings. The Shatterlings are sent off into the universe to explore. They will meet up at regular intervals. Hundreds of thousands of years in the future, they'll get together, share their experiences with one another. There are some interesting aliens, intelligent robots, strange worlds, and an unbelievable space chase, a space battle that spans millennia. Reynolds pulls off something unique and amazing. I also have to include Leviathan Wakes in the Expanse series by James S.A. Corey, published in 2011. I remind myself that this list is for you and not just for me. I did enjoy the Expanse series quite a bit, but more so my first read through than my second. I'm going to be balanced here. This is on here because it's really easy to get pulled into the story from the get-go. This has all the elements: space opera, military science fiction, politics, etc. The scope is limited to our solar system, and that makes it feel familiar. The alien parts of the story, humans living on Mars and among the asteroid belt, do feel foreign, but because they are human, it's still familiar and it's still relatable. The story begins with a missing girl and an unlikely ragtag crew of spacers who are somehow pulled into looking for her. There is a mysterious alien protomolecule, and that's at the center of the story. The series is wildly popular, and for good reason, and because I know it's pulled many into the science fiction genre through the books or the show, it's worth making this list for that alone. Probably my biggest critique is that for me, the series takes about 4 or 5 books to really give any depth or real distinction to the main characters. For others, that may not be an issue. There are exceptions, and I also think that some of you will love this crew right from the beginning, from book 1. The final book I'll mention is another classic, and that's Neuromancer by William Gibson. This could easily fit in with the top 10. Because I think it's more of a personal taste or niche read, I'll mention it here as a dark and gritty action science fiction novel. This is the most popular cyberpunk novel, and it's credited with really bringing the genre to life. Case is a down-on-his-luck hacker residing in a port city near Tokyo. He's hired by a mysterious employer who needs him to hack into and access a powerful AI. The team he is matched with are a bunch of other misfits. The thing that most grabs you with this read is the vibe and the visuals. If you let it, the story will pull you into this dark world with a vivid virtual reality landscape. It will twist and turn you and confuse you, but it will deliver an experience like no other. There's a How to Read Neuromancer video on my channel that I definitely recommend for beginners, as it can really support the reading experience. Thank you for watching. I'm Michael Leverts, and this is Fit to be Read.